Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about what constitutes and how can we measure or evaluate or prove that a society is advanced. What is an advanced society? Is it a relative thing or an absolute thing? Is it a purely technical matter of how many computers a society has, or how many rockets it's fired to the moon, or something? Is it a technical matter? Is it a social matter? Is it a matter of equity? Is it a matter of how many people die or don't die of starvation? Again, what exactly are the markers for this? And I don't know if that debate has even been settled. Now, the Marxists have hijacked certainly this idea of the progressive society, which seems to boil down to equal outcomes and equity, that a person who's overweight and super unfit should still equally finish the race at the same time as the super fit athlete that trains hard and is in great shape. And that sort of this equity outcome thing, that's touted and thrown around as an example of a progressive or advanced society. Now, I would argue it's none of those things, but how do we, coming back to the central question, how do we determine whether society is advanced or not? Now, having thought about this for a long time and having done a vast amount of international travel all around the world many times over, I guess I've got a closer to the front row seat than many perhaps, but and being a history buff. But my take on what an advanced society is the ability of the people to get along and share resources, and to also accept or agree to a common set of rules, and to agree, say, well, the sovereignty above all people is the codified law. That clearly codified, unambiguous law is sovereign, and we will have independent arbiters interpret that law in the case of dispute. And those completely independent arbiters will be free from political interference or intimidation or threat or so on. So now, I in my view, that's those sorts of things are where the most advanced societies and the most social progress, if you will, has been achieved. There is no arbitrary law. The rules are all agreed upon, and the method of negotiating in the event of dispute, the method of negotiating through those rules or to ensure abiding by them is assessed independently, and we all accept that that's the process. So accepting the rules and accepting the process and agreeing on the rules and agreeing on the process and electing people, voting for people, this is elections for government, voting people and casting votes that will decide who has the power and who can be voted out and voted in and so on. So I think that's the indication. Now, the most societies that were most accepting of that were the richest societies. When I say the richest through their own productive ingenuity. You can have rich societies, say, that may discover thousands of years worth of oil under the ground. They can become a wealthy society, but they may not be what we would call socially advanced, or I prefer socio-technical, because technology has advanced a long way, and the high technology, or the presence of high technology, is typically quite a good marker or indicator of an advanced society. Does it necessarily guarantee advanced sort of social type issues? Well, no, but the two typically go together. In order to produce that sort of technology, the society has to be able to collaborate, and that collaboration is an example of an advanced society. Now, we can argue. So just to recap, what in my view are the markers of an advanced society? It's clearly codified law that we can all agree by, the rules that we all agree. Those are the rules, we'll abide by them. Independent arbiters, vote for your government, and universally applied, equally applied law, no arbitrary law, no political courts, these sorts of things. Now, that means that ideology has to play a very small part. Not that it can't have a part, but it has to play a small part. The codified law is sovereign. That is sovereign. It's sovereign above governments. It's sovereign above, kings and aristocrats. It's sovereign. Now, has it ever worked perfectly at any time, as in 100% perfectly? Of course not. Of course not. But that's the closest the human condition has come to. I think that is the pinnacle of an advanced society. Now, inherent in that, once you have that level of collaboration and agreement on the rules, and agreement on sovereignty of the clearly codified law, not vague bullshit law, but clearly codified law, then you have a very high degree of social trust. And that too is an indication of advanced society, the amount of social trust. And when you have high levels of social trust, then you have an advanced, I believe, if not an advanced society, the key, most fundamental building block of it. So these are the things that now you may think, well, high social trust, so what? Certainly my traveling around the world, very few societies other than Western societies, and there's even a degree of variance there. Only Western societies demonstrated that level of social trust. Only Western society. Now, when I say Western societies, you can have, like, say, Japan had high levels of social trust, and it was quite a westernized society in many ways. Was it 100% Western? Well, no, but it had very high levels of social trust, very advanced technology, lot of collaboration and agreement on how things should be done, and acceptance of the rules and these sorts of things. So that was, and still is today, by the way, an advanced society, and one that functioned, certainly as I saw it, very well. And I'd been there many times and done business there. So we need to understand that advanced societies do have certain markers, and the common agreement, again, of the rules and codified law, collaboration. And just certainly in business, which I've been involved in for many years, the West, not anymore, they're losing that very quickly, but the West used to have an ability for people to spontaneously collaborate. This idea of the inventions of computers and advanced technology inventions, innovations, they all came from the West. But why? Why uniquely the West? Is it because Western people were just smarter than anyone else? Well, I mean, you could argue that to some extent, but principally, or among the key issues of why the West was so technically advanced was the high levels of social trust, and inherent in that social trust, the ability to spontaneously collaborate, in this case, with business or inventions and so on. Why did people with the money fund, Tesla in his electrical days, or Westinghouse and Edison and all those guys were inventing all those sort of things? Why did they were able to find very skilled engineers and designers to work with them? So this ability to collaborate, and importantly for people who don't know each other, have never met, they've got no connection, like there's no connection through family or old school tie or something like that. So they're able to collaborate and trust each other, at least trust each other enough to be able to, let's focus on the task at hand here and let's get it done. Let's not get caught up in the weeds of how many black lesbians are on the payroll. Let's get this job done. And that level of collaboration is, on that ability to collaborate and the social trust required to do that, was not necessarily universal in the West, but more prevalent than you would see it anywhere else. On a relative basis, the West was far more. And I noticed it going to, and I remember the first time that I went to third world countries on business, I was staggered at how low the social trust is. And when I first went to New York, how the Jews didn't trust the Gentiles. I was quite shocked by that. Why not? And being a Gentile, I was treated as being not simply an outsider, but we know what you're up to, you damn fucking bad, and so on. So I sort of wasn't sure how to deal with that. given it was the first time I'd sort of directly experienced it. But you have to get into in New York anyway. You have to get in the habit of getting into these intense verbal sort of brawling with these people, and that seems to be how they did business then, maybe still do. So anyway, that was so in the third world countries, or even countries, former communist countries, or just simply not in the first world, they had a very different view of social trust, of agreement on the rules. There was always a view that the rules will be made by one tribe or one group or one class or one lot of people to suit themselves, and it'll be to the detriment of others. So why should we agree to any common set of rules? And if rules are imposed on us, we'll just sort of quietly and sullenly undermine the intent and purpose of those rules because they don't suit us, or even if they do suit us, we suspect they'll be used against us in some way. So the lack of social trust was huge. Now that massive social trust advantage that the West had, due to mass migration and World Economic Forum and globalist control of, turning all once sovereign Western governments into just stooge flunkies, means that social trust, infiltrating institutions, that social trust is pretty much eroded. And I recall, first when I sort of first left college and was going, working, how much social trust there was out there compared to today, and how we were all, working for a big multinational at the time, how we were all young trainees. We were going to find a cure for cancer. We were going to do this, and we all collaborated closely. We all trusted and had faith in each other. Now that faith could be lost if somebody was useless or incompetent or turned out to be particularly sly or underhand. So, but the beginning point was high, almost complete trust. Maybe not complete, but certainly very high levels of trust. Whereas, you go to any other country, much poorer countries, and the beginning level of social trust is like almost zero. So I would say that's the pinnacle of human civilization, where you have a society that can have that level of social trust and agreement on the rules, agreement on the procedures, agreement on the methodologies. So much so you say, okay, I don't have to worry about that anymore because we all agree. So I'm going to elect you, Billy Bob or Jimmy Jack, to be the judge or the prime minister or the mayor of the town or whatever it might be. So I can get on with building wealth and looking after my family and spending my time and energy in that without having to constantly look over my fucking shoulder that the government isn't coming to screw me, or there isn't some group coming out to get me or something. So so that's the most advanced, in my view. That's the most advanced. Now that's all being lost in the West now, but if we're looking at advanced civilization, I think that was the pinnacle. So I think the West the pinnacle had already been reached. Now we can look and say, well, was it perfect? Well, it wasn't perfect because black lesbians weren't having an equal outcome with them. So that proves that you're all fucking Nazis, Hitler. So, well, no, it doesn't mean that at all. In a merit-based system, the guy that works and trains the hardest for the 100-meter race and watches his diet and and has the natural genetics to run fast, he's going to win the race. Accept that, because he worked the hardest and he puts in the he's the guy's up at 4 o'clock in the morning busting his ass around the running track. Someone that doesn't put in that sort of effort, or maybe puts in no effort and is forever eating candy or something by the truckload, isn't going to win the race. To say that therefore means that society is not equal, it therefore means that society is somehow totally fucked and must be socially re-engineered to ensure that the candy-eating sloth always comes equal first with the pristine athlete. That's ridiculous. So I think that's a retrograde step, a huge retrograde step. But that's where we are now, where it's deliberately being forced on us by the globalists to undermine merit in Western societies. Because remember, clearly codified law that is sovereign and governments that are sovereign are direct obstacles to the globalist project, and they have to be removed. So I think we'd achieved, certainly, in the curve of the arc of human history, we'd achieved that the most advanced society, other things being equal, and what's happening today is a severe and quite brutal retrograde step. And I think the achievements and the accomplishments of society, Western society in particular, are all going to be squandered and lost as a result. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.